Greatest life lessons that he taught us was just humility and devotion, hard work, commitment. And he showed us all what it looks like to be, devoted to one's family. More than just a hospice story, this is a love story. It's actually a love of life story about my father who loved his life, his beautiful wife, his 2 kids, 5 grandchildren, his family, friends, community, and his land, his company, and the great outdoors. This love of life story is about my dad, David Gerard Cook. My dad cherished the simple things in life and faced every day full of energy, with gratitude and humility. My dad embodied the spirit of living his life well and taught me and so many others how to do the exact same thing.
My dad was his most authentic self when he was in the great outdoors. So all of my favorite memories include times when we were hiking, biking, snorkeling, boating. That was when he was the most alive. My dad lived with intent. He taught us to leave every room better than when you first arrived, not only aesthetically, but also emotionally. He did that through giving back, building relationships, and helping others.
After he graduated from St. Mary's Springs, he found his calling as a hunting guide in Alaska. Coming home for a vacation, we met at a wedding, and the rest is history. I miss everything about him, basically. I miss his companionship, because he truly was my best friend. He was always family-oriented, and he was there for anyone who needed him. He truly was a gifted artist and was always creating beautiful things. He was a gardener, a chef, a craftsman, and brought beauty to everything he touched.
My dad taught me that in life, if you want something real, something meaningful, or something beautiful, you must work hard for it. And this he showed us until his very last breath.
Returning home for Christmas in 1980, as he was living in Alaska, his anticipated short stay turned into a beautiful lifetime. Dave and I met and became inseparable. We married on October 8th, 1982. Navigating married life as a young couple, Dave eagerly embraced family, yet balanced that with a work ethic second to none. As years progressed, keeping Cook's construction somewhat small, Dave was able to expertly deliver and leave his talented mark on each project that came his way. Because he did not believe in downtime, he could get a lot done, and a lot done the right way, as there was no other way. As a gifted leader, Dave was always present for his customers and his employees. Dave was a hard worker. He was always the first one to the shop in the morning and the last one to leave in the evening. He was a perfectionist. He expected it of all of his employees also.
As a mom and a teacher now, I have an incredible admiration for my dad as a parent and a professional. As kids, he taught us the value of hard work, yet how to balance that with wholesome fun. My dad worked endlessly for his business and was always active in his church and community, but he always made time to hunt and fish and be outdoors with his loved ones, as that gave him the greatest pleasure. My dad was the best supporter and provider we could have asked for.
His personality, his kindness, he had integrity. He was always there for everybody, whatever the situation, whatever anybody needed, put other people's needs first. He just had too many qualities to count, good qualities, so.
I always had a respect for Dave because he never pretended or denied being human. You know, like all of us, we have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. But Dave was authentic. I can honestly say I never had a bad interaction with him or didn't enjoy any time I spent with him.
Beyond family and friends, Dave loved nature and being outdoors. Fishing and hunting were his 2 favorite hobbies. I feel Dave all the time when I'm out in nature.
Dave would do anything to go fishing or hunting or anything outdoors. Both spring and fall we'd get together for 5 days or so and go up north to the Boulder Junction area and go fishing. And we became better and better and better and better friends. Oh, he's certainly one of my best friends I've ever had.
In March of 2017, Dave was experiencing recurring headaches that led to a seizure. Following a visit to SSM Health St. Agnes Hospital Emergency Room, a mass was found on Dave's brain. Through expert referral, Dave was diagnosed with glioblastoma and underwent surgery to remove what they could. Despite the grim prognosis, through Dave's determination and love for his family, he was willing to fight the hard fight for more time with those he loved. Throughout his illness, Dave, never complaining, underwent 2 brain surgeries, radiation, and chemotherapy treatments for almost 3 years. Through his treatment, he did radiation. He wore a device on his head called Optune. He did chemotherapy in a pill form. But throughout it all, he stayed very positive through it all and never stopped living and wanted to do as much as he possibly could.
Down this trail, at the end of this trail, by the end of the woods there, his last fall hunting season with us, I had cleared out a spot back there and we set up a ground blind that we could get his wheelchair to. Our first night out, we had a doe come right over to us, 10 yards broadside. It was, it was all over if you wanted it to be, but he looked through that scope for what seems like minutes and he's just like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, yeah, I'll clean it for you. I'll gut it, I'll hang it. And like, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, I got this. And he's like, "Are you sure? You got to get on the road in the morning." He was more worried about me. One of the things I noticed towards the end is, he liked to provide his family and friends with, game that he cooked and he processed, that he put the work into. I knew when his time was running out, he wasn't going to be able to share that with us. So taking that animal's life wasn't really an option at that point. We got to have that moment, and that was good. So we just watched that doe eat in front of us for about 15 minutes and scampered off, and that doe doesn't know how lucky it was.
Though remaining positive and doing everything he could to fight his cancer battle, being cured was not going to be a reality. And in the fall of 2019, it became apparent Dave was not going to survive this. With the support of his family, Dave courageously chose to discontinue cancer treatment, and we called hospice.
Placing a patient or a family member on hospice is really a tough decision for family, and we really try to ease that pain and anxiety of making that decision. So our team is well coached in helping the family through those issues and that time, and really easing their anxiety around caring for their loved one at home.
The hospice experience was so positive for all parties. It gave my dad the ability to have some autonomy in a powerless situation and die on his own terms with grace and dignity intact. But what I think was even more important to us was the time and attention that the staff gave the caretakers and the family, because those who are caring for people who are dying are exhausted and grieving. And the hospice staff can help remove some of that burden of caretaking and some of that emotional burden also. They can theoretically or often physically hold your hand through the process with grace and love. And the staff was just phenomenal.
They are all wonderful people. They were great. And oddly enough, we had a lot of RNs, but Larry was his main RN. And they could have been bookends. I mean, Larry was a fisherman and a hunter and an avid outdoorsman. And so he and David clicked from the very first day they met. And they got along well. So it was nice to have him.
They were able to give Kathy that reassurance, and Dave that reassurance that, we're always there. You can always pick up a phone. You can call us day or night. We'll come out every week, every couple, twice a week if you need it, more if you need it. And so it took that fear away from having to go through that alone.
Through the exceptional care hospice provided, Dave was able to live out his remaining days as comfortable as he could, with friends and family by his side, at our beautiful home which he built with his own hands. After almost 3 weeks on hospice, we felt the end was near. We continued to gather as a family, never leaving Dave's side during the day, and myself sleeping beside him every night.
My father was non-responsive for a few days prior to his passing. He had a very rhythmic breathing. I was sitting by his bedside and started talking about Mom. That's right around when he woke up, and his eyes just shot open, and I can't describe the look in his eyes, but it was a deep loving and seriousness to it, and I knew he was there, and I started asking him questions, and he would blink in response, and so we started talking about all the things, and I told him I would always take care of Mom as best as I could.
Just after the new year on January 3rd, 2020, comfortably resting in his home with his family at his side, my dad finally reached the top of his mountain, opened his eyes wide with a look of sheer awe, shed a single tear, took one final breath, and peacefully passed away. In those final moments, he opened his eyes, he looked straight at my mom, and he shed a single tear. So we knew that he was fully with us. I was able to hold him and have my head on his chest, so I heard his last breath and felt his last heartbeat. And I can tell you, his last heartbeat was strong. He went out of the world with the same gusto that he lived his life.
Been hunting since I've been a kid, and have been hunting, nonstop ever since. And yeah, now with everything that's happened, I still get out, and you can't quit living because you're dying.
Cancer would take him, but it really didn't beat him. At only 59 years old, my father packed more living, giving, and loving into his short life than most do in a full lifetime. He was a real-life George Bailey from the movie It's a Wonderful Life. He truly was the richest man in town.